2:30.
2:30.
Yep.
There's a guest member over there. She doesn't go by. They let her know that.
Hello.
Hello, welcome everyone.
Thank you.
No, you have to sit over there. That's not what else.
Good anywhere?
People have to sit right there.
Yes. So you guys can sit right here.
Because they count how many seats.
We got a four.
I don't know, baby.
Well, it's four of us.
Oh, just wherever, baby.
That doesn't matter.
Oh, no.
Right here. Well, not necessarily. You guys,
Wait, he has one and I have one.
all right.
Hey, you guys can... Actually, I'm going to get to that right now. Alright guys, so welcome to the Lilly Belle. Couple of ground rules real quick. If you want to get up, move around, take pictures, feel free. But when we're moving, we need y'all to sit. So take a seat for me. Yeah, if you want to go around, take pictures of anything in here. Once we get to New Orleans, Toontown, Tomorrowland, feel free to get up and roam around. Second, if you have any food or drink with you that's not water, please just keep it away while we're in here. I don't think anyone has any, but... Thirdly, hey! I got a cute little old photo album. This used to have a lot more pictures in it, but it has become very tattered and worn, and probably if you open this up, photos will fall out. So just be gentle with it. I'm going to start passing it around. If you have any questions about anything that's in this photo album, feel free to ask. So welcome to the Lilly Belle presidential car. This car is known as an observation car, parlor car, presidential car, but it wasn't always that way. So definitely has been upgraded since the past. There are some old pictures of what it used to look like in the photo album. Originally, this was part of a series of train cars called the Retlaw 1. They were cute little yellow passenger cars that would go from Main Street all the way back to Main Street. However, in the mid-60s, they saw a decline in use, and in the 70s, they were retired from the railroad altogether. There were several reasons behind this. One, it got really, really hot in these cars in the summer, making them almost useless. Air doesn't flow real well, so that was no good. Two, they didn't carry a whole lot of people. They used to be all forward-facing with kind of like a school bus with an aisle down the middle. Three, they took a really long time to load. The only way to get on the cars was to board the back or the front and pass through the cars into the middle. So that created lots of traffic jams in the intersections between the cars, and just in general took a long time to load. And finally, the final thing that ended it for the Retlaw 1 was in 1966. We got some cute little dinosaurs up here in the tunnel, and people who sat on the left-hand side of the train claimed that they couldn't see through the small windows with everyone between. So in 1966, the Retlaw 1 was only really used for special occasions. In 1976, 10 years later, this car reemerged with a red paint job rather than yellow and was renamed the Lilly Belle. Its original name was the Grand Canyon. All the Retlaw cars were named after different landmarks in America, such as the Colorado Rockies, the Painted Desert, and so on and so forth. The Grand Canyon became the Lilly Belle. So originally to come in here, you either had to be a guest of the Disneyland Resort or a guest of Lilly and Disney herself. The first guest in this car was Emperor Hirohito, who was visiting America for America's 200th birthday, and he was a personal guest of Lillian in here. Now, on that note, I'm going to pass one of these around. You guys will all get one when you're done. In the margin of our Lilly Belle tickets is the number 07041976. That date has two important things about it. Number one, America's 200th birthday. Number 2, it was the opening day of the Lilly Belle. And so we have a little bit of a tribute to that on all the tickets that we give out. So along with the Retlaw 1, which was a passenger train, we also had another set of train cars called the Retlaw 2 that would start here in Frontierland and go round trip back to Frontierland. The odd thing about Retlaw 2 was it was all boxcars and cattle cars and there were 0 seats on it. So you had to stand up for the entirety of the trip. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't apply very much with modern safety standards. So in the mid-60s, Retlaw 2 was converted and renamed the Holiday 2 for its holiday-style seating, which is the same seating as this train car in some of us. Now, on the left is the original Frontierland station. When New Orleans was built and we built the New Orleans station, we decided to keep the Frontierland station around and just moved it across the tracks, and it now serves as a break area for engineers. Its design and architecture has a very fun story behind it. So before Walt had ever thought of Disneyland, ever made Disneyland, he did several films. One of those films was called So Dear to My Heart. In that film was a train station. Now Walt had a friend who also had a backyard railroad named Ward Kimball. His railroad, which was another hobby railroad, unlike Walt's, had trains that were bigger than the ones he did. So he had always wanted to have a station house for his railroad. So after the filming was done, he approached Walt and asked if he could have the movie prop from the film shoot. Walt said that he would send it to his home. So several weeks later, Ward received several crates, and as he calls it, when he opened it, it became the biggest, most evil jigsaw puzzle he had ever done. The prop was broken down into panels, and none of the panels were marked. So what Ward had to do was he approached a carpenter who worked as a set designer on the film and asked if he still had those blueprints from the set, and he did. From those blueprints, he managed to somehow assemble the station, all 3 walls since it was a movie prop, and when he set the roof on top of it, it collapsed on itself, leaving only the door frames, window frames, and the roof itself in any usable condition. So Ward decided he was going to rebuild the station his way. So he built it with 4 walls this time, using the carpentry designs that he received from the set master, and he rebuilt it. However, knowing that Walt was a prideful man, he decided he would not tell Walt about this until one fateful day when Walt decided he was going to build this place called Disneyland. Oh, looks like the train's moving in. So when Walt was building Disneyland, he had several problems with money and several problems with time. So trying to save on money and time, he thought of a few ways to not really cut corners, but make it easier on himself. So he thought, instead of building a brand new train station, why don't I just ask if I can have my old one back? So he approached Ward, and they got into a heated argument because Ward refused to let him have the station back. So then Ward finally had to reveal to Walt what had happened to his original train station. Walt decided to drop it. However, Ward did give him a parting gift. He gave him the plans that he got from the set designer, and from those plans, Walt built a bigger version of it, which is our Frontierland station. Also as an homage to this, when we expanded and made our Toontown station, we had a cartoon artist come out and draw a cartoonized version of Frontierland station, and that is the architecture design of Toontown. Bye, Rick. So originally in the early days of the railroad, the trains could pass each other. We had sidings here at Frontierland and sidings at Main Street. The siding at Main Street is still there. It's just not complete. In fact, there's a fun picture of this very train car. The reason why we can't pass each other anymore, with its front trucks on the right track and its left trucks on the left. Ever since that incident, we're not allowed to pass each other anymore. However, the engineers still keep a photo of that in the roundhouse. Speaking of the roundhouse, we're passing through Critter Country onto the river. So back when we were a small railroad of 2 trains, our roundhouse was out here on the river. I'll point out where the trains join the main line when we get there. However, when our railroad expanded to what it is now, which is 5 engines with 4 sets of train cars, we had to build a bigger roundhouse, and that is currently behind It's a Small World, which I'll point out when we get there as well. Out here on the river, you might be able to catch a glimpse of the Mark Twain Riverboat, which is also another steam-powered vessel. Both our steam engines and the Mark Twain are steam-powered. They are biodiesel heating water, and our engineers work exclusively on the boat and the train. Alright, so we're almost there. So coming up on this side of the train, you're going to see a big rock wall with a boarded up cave. That boarded up cave used to be the way our trains would come out and join the mainland. I can see the rock wall, so once we get up to it, you want to look this way and back to the left to see the boarded up cave. You've probably seen this a dozen times, but never knew what it was. It actually wasn't until about 8 years ago that they removed the tracks. So that cave right there. So I mentioned we now have 5 engines and 4 sets of train cars. So when Retlaw 1 was retired, that left us now with 4. So we have Retlaw 2, which then became Holiday 2. We have Excursion 3, which is many people know as the train that faces forward. Then we had Twins, Holiday 4, and Holiday 5. That look exactly alike, except Holiday 4 has green stripes and Holiday 5 has blue. So this train in front of us is Holiday 5. Now every train car has a number. The first car of Holiday 5 is 501. Second car, 502, 503, 504, 505. Now you would think that would make this car 506. However, in homage to its roots as the cute little yellow Retlaw 1, this car's number is still 106, signifying it's part of the 100 series of Retlaw 1. We still have that number on the outside in golden lettering. Next thing you'll be able to see. Now we're entering Town Depot. Again, I'll point out our new roundhouse when we come to it. So in the roundhouse, currently we have 4 engines. Engine 1 is out being refurbished in Fresno. But in total, it will 5 engines at a time. So those 5 engines are as follows. Engine number 1 is the CK Holiday. It's a large replica of Walt's Lilly Belle train that ran in his backyard. It's named after the founder of the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railroad system, which was an early sponsor. It and Engine 2 are twins that were built by Walt Disney and his Imagineers. Engine 2 is the E.P. Ripley, named after a founding chairman of the board of the Santa Fe Railroad system. And it is the train that Walt rode out to Main Street on opening day of Disneyland. So you can see a little bit of a Santa Fe Railroad connection, and that would carry on with our next 2 trains as well. Because riding in the cab on that engine when Walt rode out on opening day was a man who went by the name of Fred Gurley. He was a close friend of Walt Disney, and he also just so happened to be the president of the Santa Fe Railroad system in Walt's lifetime. So, in 1958, Walt decided to expand the railroad again. We got a new station in Tomorrowland, making 3 stations. We got a new diorama, which featured the Grand Canyon. And we got a new set of train cars with a new engine. The set of train cars was Excursion 3, and the engine was Engine 3, named Fred Gurley, after Walt's friend and the current president of the Santa Fe. Now, if you love Disneyland, you can probably actually thank Fred Gurley for its existence. So, after Walt had done Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, he found himself in a little bit of a slump. He never felt that he could ever re-achieve the magic that was Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. He got critical acclaim from Cinderella, all the other films, but he never seemed to be able to trump himself. So, seeing that Walt was in a slump, 2 of his close friends decided they were going to cheer him up and take him on a vacation. Those 2 friends were Ward Kimball and Fred Gurley. Fred Gurley, using his connections in the railroad world, arranged for Ward and Walt to be given train tickets to Chicago, where a train festival was going on, And at that festival, Walt's love of trains was rekindled, and it was then that he started collecting machinists from around his studios to start building his Lilly Belle backyard railroad, which eventually would lead to the idea of a family park, which led to the creation of Disneyland. So, interesting thing about Engine 3 though is Disney did not build Engine 3. Engine 3 was built at Baldwin Locomotive Works in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and we simply restored it. Now, how we got it was originally the Fred Gurley was manufactured in 1894, making it our oldest engine, and it was used in Louisiana to take crops from 3 plantations to the port of New Orleans. After it retired from those plantations, it became a switcher train for the God Show Sugar Company, and then it was sold for scrap. The person who bought it from the scrap heap was a railroad photographer who kept it along with other graveyard trains, and Walt's machinists on a trip convinced him to sell it to them, and they brought it back to the shop and restored it, where it began work in March of 1958. Here we go. So the next year, the railroad didn't expand, but Walt decided that he wanted his engines to be able to be taken out of rotation so that they could be worked on. So in 1959, we added our 4th engine, which is named Ernest Marsh. In 1958, Fred Gurley retired, and his successor was Ernest Marsh, making him the new president of the Santa Fe Railroad System, and so Walt named it after him. But originally, he hadn't thought of naming it after Ernest, but we'll go over that fact in just a little bit, because I gotta set you up to see the roundhouse. So the roundhouse is gonna be back this way, again to your left. You'll see the monorail up top, trains down below, and you'll only be able to see it for a split second. So you're going to want to look back in that way when we get to the crossing arms. Monorail.
From here?
Yep, so right back that way. So, as our engineers always tell us, the monorail people are always looking down at us. Oh, sorry, I'll get your hand. So right back there. So let's see, where was I? Ernest Marsh. So, when we got Engine 4, we sent our machinists out to look for old Baldwins, since Engine 3 worked out so well, and it was a Baldwin. So, we found our Baldwin on the East Coast in the New England area, and it originally had been in service as a lumberyard steamer and also hauled sand for a mill up there. And then it was retired and bought by a collector. We approached the collector with an offer, and he accepted it. However, instead of shipping it back to LA and restoring it, we had our machinist work with the shop on the East Coast and restored it there, and then had it shipped via train. So, the train was supposed to arrive via another train, and it never came. So Walt reached out to the new successor of Fred Gurley, Ernest Marsh, and asked if he could help him find his missing locomotive. And he used his contacts and found that it was sitting on a siding in Pittsburgh. How it got there, no one knows, but he then used his contacts to ship it to LA. Walt, who was overjoyed to have his engine, decided to name the engine after Ernest Marsh.